It's funny. So this creative agent that we launched this week, which is designed to produce ads for Amazon, I've actually started to integrate it into my own personal workflow. I'll give you a few examples. While rehearsing for my keynote, I found myself saying the script over and over and over again and decided to just upload it and ask the creative agent to output an audio file in the style of Steve Jobs. And it did a remarkable job. And then on my flight on the way, I just wound up listening to my own talk track, read to me, putting the emphasis in the right places.
And so about 3 minutes before the end of your speech, it prompted you to say one more thing.
One more thing, yes. Yes, exactly. So now I just got to come up with that one more thing.
Welcome to GeekWire from GeekWire.com in Seattle. I'm Todd Bishop. Our guest today is Jay Richman. He is Vice President of Product and Technology at Amazon. He previously worked on ad and creator tools at Spotify, and he now leads the creative technology team at Amazon that's developing all sorts of creative tools for advertising, including new agentic AI systems that change how advertising is made. Jay, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thanks for having me in. We are on location here at Amazon headquarters in Seattle, but you're not based here. You're based in New York.
I'm based in New York, yes, but I've been welcomed to sunshine here in Seattle.
It's like this all the time.
Oh, so I hear.
So you're here in part, I know, for the Amazon Accelerate conference, which is a big seller conference that takes place. And part of what I want to talk to you about is some of your team's new offerings that are going to be highlighted at this conference in downtown Seattle this week. But I thought I'd start by asking you sort of big picture about your history, because I know you have a really interesting history in all sorts of media. And you actually started developing applications for the Palm Pilot. Am I right?
It's just another way of outing me as being old.
So you can get into this a little bit, but I want to ask you about it in the frame of reference of what's happening today. So you were developing an app for Weight Watchers back before there was wireless capabilities on mobile devices, and you worked for NBC Universal in early streaming. You ended up working at Spotify, and now you're at Amazon. Can you sort of give us a sense, just as the backdrop here, for how you've seen media evolve over the course of your career?
Sure. And how did all those seemingly random places fit together? I would say that one of the kind of unifying themes is that I've always run kind of towards whatever the new disruptive technology is. So the first time I laid hands on a Palm Pilot, do we need to explain what Palm Pilots are?
Maybe just briefly. Yeah, not to me, but perhaps there's maybe 25% of the audience that doesn't know what we're talking about.
Probably safe. We might lose them right here otherwise. So imagine, this is going to sound terrible, imagine a phone without an antenna, and that the only way to get it to communicate with the World Wide Web required you docking it in a cradle and synchronizing the information that you entered on a handheld device with that you queried on the internet. That was a Palm Pilot. It had a number of basic killer apps, calendaring, so on and so forth. It's like a phone without an antenna, and it was a great device at the time to substitute for a physical paper book, which is what a lot of Weight Watchers customers were using in order to look up point counts and decide what they're going to eat, or journal what they were having at restaurants. And so this idea that you would walk around with a book that would operate as a weight loss guide carried lots of kind of stigmas around it. People were very self-conscious of bringing when they were dining out. And so the opportunity was this new device comes along that all of a sudden you can use for all of these cases. It had an open apps platform, and Weight Watchers developed one of the very first branded mobile apps pre-smartphone. So anyway, it was a very neat project. It was a bit ahead of its time, but it met a real customer need.
It's interesting, and I have to give a shout out. The CPG Guys podcast that you did was very good as well, and I have to say it was pretty instrumental in my research for our conversation today. And one of the points that you made on that episode was that you've been, over the course of your career, ahead of your time more often than not, perhaps. I mean, you went on to NBC Universal and you were involved in streaming back in like 2007, that era?
It was like '07. I was the schmucky kid giving the crown jewels away for free at a time when this really coveted content was still being licensed exclusively for, billions of dollars, on end. And so you had this tension of clearly like the new medium is coming. It's way better from an end consumer standpoint, but the business model was very much, lagging at the time. And so I really had a front row seat for the classic like innovator's dilemma, right? Which isn't that you can't see around the corner. It's not that you can't see what's coming. It's that you're somewhat held hostage to the business model of old. And figuring out how to leap from A to B turns out to be everything, because you can absolutely be too early and destroy the cash cow well ahead of needing to. And you can equally be too late and like miss the next wave because your head was otherwise in the sand. And so I find like as I get older and more experienced that the timing really is everything. I know it's an oft-used expression, but being too early is just as bad as being too late. And then luckily at my time at Spotify, I kind of hit it like right on the nose. And it's not a coincidence. I had a fair amount of experience up until that point, but the preconditions were met in that particular opportunity for great growth to proceed.
So this really sets us up well for a conversation about where you are today at Amazon, because I think that's one of the key questions about AI, and not just generative AI, but agentic AI, and that is one of the announcements this week. But before we get to that, let's get a sense for the scope of your job, because when people say ads at Amazon, I think the first thing that somebody would think of is, oh, it's those things that get me to buy the Amazon Basics vacuum cleaner when I'm actually searching for a Dyson. But there's a lot more to it than that. When you talk about ads at Amazon, what's the scope of what you're talking about?
Yeah, Amazon operates a very vast and sprawling network, kind of beyond the ads that you're describing that appear in search and detail pages. There are the kinds of messages that are served on Prime Video and live sports, Alexa devices, even those screens that you see in Whole Foods markets, carry brand messages. And so it's a very vast and sprawling network. Ads come in lots of different shapes and sizes and media types. We serve image ads, video ads, sponsored ads, audio. The kinds that you see inside of a IMDb scroll are very different than the ones that would appear atop of a Fire TV home screen. And so the creative opportunities and challenges are great, because all told, Amazon Ads reaches 300 million users in the US alone. But to reach them, you need to have creative that can meet them where they're at across all of these different surfaces. And so this is probably one of the greatest challenges in the industry. And so I found it like a very exciting one to sign on to.
So your team has already come out with things in the past that use generative AI, allow Amazon sellers and Amazon sellers mostly, right, to use generative AI to create content that they might have created manually in the past. Can you give us a rundown of what the basics are with that?
Yeah, happy to provide some background. So we started on this journey a little over 2 years ago with the launch of Image Generator and followed up by Video Generator. And these were like super simple to use tools that were designed for brands with little time, budget, or resources required to do anything beyond search-based advertising. And so in order for them to bring their products, to bring their brands to life, we started to develop these like simple few-click tools that would exist right within the campaign building workflow. So instead of advertising a sofa in a white setting, we could like stage it in a living room. Instead of a toaster, we could place it on a countertop. We were kind of competing with like white backgrounds and creating instead visually appealing contextual images. And that's kind of where we started.
I think one of the things you've mentioned is like a coffee cup with steam coming out of it that might capture the attention.
And that was the evolution, which was once you could create a great lifestyle image, you could then add subtle motion using our video models. And so I think the example that you're citing was a coffee mug placed on a kitchen counter, kind of like step one. Step two is we could add, subtle steam rising in order to just like catch the eye, create a little bit more of an emotional connection between the brand and the shopper. And then once you're able to create photorealistic images and add animation to them, you could start to string multiple versions together in order to create these short, simple stories. And that's the origin of Video Generator.
You are based in New York, as we were saying earlier, and it strikes me that people on Madison Avenue might have mixed feelings about this in some ways. What kind of feedback do you get from creatives, the people who might have in the past, obsessed over the brand tagline or thought about all that advertising copy that they were going to create? I mean, it's not just an industry, it's kind of like an art form. Like, what's been the reaction that you've heard from people that you know in the ad industry to the idea of AI doing these kinds of tasks?
Yeah, I mean, well, what we've observed is just a radical expansion of the market. There are so many brands that are not doing image, video, audio advertising. And so it's just complete, net new expansion of the market. And it's great for brands and helping them kind of, grow their businesses and helping them grow up on Amazon. And then for larger brands that spend a ton on their creative and getting their messages just right, they have the challenge of scaling it across publishers, across platforms. And so we've seen creatives be very quick for this like adaptation use case. I built a TV ad. Can you help transform it into something mid-market, something that is more kind of consideration based? And that's a segment of the funnel that typically gets neglected. You have your performance marketers over here, and you have your brand marketers over here, and often that bit in the middle where you're aware of the product, but you're not quite ready to purchase it, and you need to be nudged along that journey, tends to be neglected. And we found that these tools are a sweet spot for not just small or large, but creative agencies as well to be able to plug those voids.
Very interesting. Okay, so that gets us to the news moment, and I want to get to that when we come back. You're listening to GeekWire, and we will be right back. Check out the new season of Does Compute. It's a great podcast from Carnegie Mellon's School of Computer Science and GeekWire Studios. It explores how computer science is building useful stuff that works. It covers innovations shaping healthcare, AI, climate solutions, and more, featuring top experts. Does Compute reveals real-world impacts, no coding required. Download the podcast or watch the Season 2 videos at geekwire.com/doescompute. Welcome back. It's Todd Bishop. I'm on location this week at Amazon headquarters with Jay Richman. He is Vice President of Product and Technology at Amazon. He leads a team involved in the creative aspects of advertising. And so, Jay, this week, your team announced a new agentic AI tool, and it can learn about a brand and a product. It can understand what shoppers like about it, and then create ads that highlight those product differentiators. So I want you to tell us about this, but I mean, this seems like it takes what you were just talking about and goes even further. And so I'm thinking again about those creatives, but for better and worse for them, perhaps. Can you tell us what this new agentic AI tool is and what it'll do for brands?
Yeah, well, that was a great description, by the way. It sounds awesome. Maybe I can get into it in a bit more detail because I am quite pumped about it. Imagine a creative agent that operates as a creative director, one that is capable of conducting market research, looking at kind of brand pages and product details, customer reviews, being able to do web searches, looking at D2C sites if they're available, social media sites, being able to basically synthesize all of the information that we can have about a brand so that we have a 360 view, then be able to pull specific insights, add that data in order to craft new creative concepts, kind of novel concepts. And so that's like the starting point. The super simple tools I described before, kind of like one click within a campaign workflow, great for small brands. This tool is actually tailor built for creatives. You were asking before about who are the users. Well, what we're finding is that the best output originates from creatives who understand the language. And this is, I see, a tool that will help in part supercharge them. I think it'll expand the market, but I think that especially at the outset, the best results are going to come from folks who are kind of familiar with the creative production process. And so it kind of starts as I was saying with this upfront like market research, okay, what are you looking to achieve? Let me go out and find as much information that I can. Here's where your product excels. Here are some gaps in the market after having looked at similar products in your category. Here are a few insights. Let me craft those into a series of concepts. And then you can kind of go back and forth. Like imagine being pitched some like wow concept with like an easel, behind you that is showing like visuals and trying to bring that concept to life. That's kind of like the upfront part of the process, the whole ideation and visualization process. And then once that initial idea is aligned upon, the tool operates a series of models that are capable of image, video, and audio generation in order to create fully formed ads. And so rather than clicking a button, you're actually able to have a natural language conversation with a creative partner that is working with you to help you achieve your goals.
How sophisticated is it in terms of like the placement part of the marketing model? In other words, would it say to the brand like, hey, a search ad might be good in this case, but actually, you know what, your point of sale at Whole Foods might be a better situation here? I mean, is it that comprehensive in terms of what it can do for the brand?
It's getting there. That's
Okay.
a great case, by the way. I'm going to share it with my product team. But it's getting there. So the experience is trained on Amazon data. So it's aware of all of the products in the catalog, all of the brands in the catalog. It's aware of all of our ad products, all of our publisher placements. And so if you were to ask, build me a video for sponsored brands, it knows all the specifications for sponsored brands. If you were looking at a sponsored brand video and you asked it, can you adapt it for online video, it understands all of our online video placements. If you have a video that you love and you ask it for a companion, image ad so that you could run display campaigns, alongside it, it could serve that. If you upload an image and you say, can you create an audio spot that runs on Alexa inspired by the image, it'll actually look at all of the information within the image, generate a script, and then apply a voiceover on top of it. And so it's a very flexible tool. It's a nonlinear workflow. You can kind of enter into it in any direction, and it has awareness of the entirety of the Amazon network.
As I was reading the announcement, it struck me like I know that this is purpose-built for Amazon sellers and for people who are in the Amazon ecosystem, but it felt almost like there was broader applicability potentially, like maybe this could be a standalone advertising product independent of the Amazon world. Is that something you all would ever consider? I'm not trying to get you to spill the secrets or anything. Well, maybe I am, but I'm just curious if that's on your mind.
I do get that question because once you are hands-on, you see like the power of it, and you could start to imagine use cases beyond Amazon. But we're very focused on building something purposeful for Amazon. Like this, I think something will have gone wrong if the experience feels like a general creative suite. Like this should feel very purpose-built for Amazon. It's trained on all that Amazon knows about the brand, the products, and the shopper. A type of ad that serves on a Fire TV is different than the one that serves on an Alexa device, is different than what makes sense atop of a Whole Foods market aisle, and actually understanding all of those surfaces and when to use what is like a huge part of the experience. And so we're like totally leaned in. Also, the insights we think is a big part of the experience. We want to be able to understand the kind of gap between what shoppers are looking for, kind of like their unmet needs, and products and brands that excel at a particular area. And we think if we can identify that through this research phase using the latest in reasoning and deep research techniques, but based on Amazon's corpus of data, that the starting point for the creative can be really unique to the brand and help them stand out in the process.
Is there anything, though, that would preclude somebody from taking, a video spot or a 300 by 600 display ad that comes out of, this new Amazon system and putting it on, their own website or putting it into a Google campaign? I mean, is there anything that precludes that kind of portability of the creative?
Other than the terms of service?
Really?
Yeah, well, I should mention that this is a free tool to use. Like, we don't charge for the tool. Advertisers can come in and literally build like a limitless number of creatives. They can build it for different products, for different seasons, in different languages, for different placements. We're really trying to encourage as much usage and adoption as possible. The more the tool is used, the smarter it'll become, the better it will work for brands on Amazon. So it really is built for Amazon. I say beyond the ads case, we do see users applying them to their brand store and their detail pages, but we really designed this to be a tool that operates within the Amazon environment, not a standalone business on its own.
In other words, that's a trade-off where, hey, you're getting this for free for use on Amazon, and that's part of the what you're signing up for is you're not going to use it elsewhere.
That's the deal.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. It strikes me that at least with earlier generations of creative content, there tended to be this kind of sameness that would result to the point where you could almost point to something and go, that looks like AI. That looks like AI. I know that the models have evolved. Amazon Nova is part of that, in addition to other LLMs and not just large language models, but multimodal AI models. How do you stay away from, in this world where AI is creating the ads, all of them looking the same?
Well, I think that is actually the key. Like, the actual creative generation models, they're going to get better and better over time. And right now, the mileage varies widely, but I expect that to narrow. And so the ability to generate an image, to generate a video, I think are going to be core capabilities that you're going to find far and wide. I think what is going to make the creative unique is this very point, is understanding what is different and distinct and differentiating about the brand and their products. And then how do you tailor that to individual shoppers such that you have a differentiated and personalized experience? I like to talk as an example about marketing a DSLR camera, like a very kind of complex product that usually requires lots of research before making a purchase decision. And that's because it can do 100 plus things, but any one user typically only cares about 20% of them. The challenge is that the 20% is different, for each shopper. And so if you could understand, as someone based on past purchase behavior is interested in these set of features, and then you can bring those features and attributes into the creative experience, and so that it's unique for me versus you versus anyone else who's doing a search, you start to move the entire shopping experience forward. And the belief is that if we can improve the shopper experience, that will be net accretive to the advertiser and the business overall.
I want to talk a little bit more about where this is headed and sort of your broader view on the evolution of media. We're going to do that when we come back. You're listening to GeekWire, and we will be right back. Welcome back. Our guest is Jay Richman, Vice President of Product and Technology at Amazon. He and his team work on the creative technology behind many of the ads that you see on Amazon platforms that are used by brands. Just this past week, they announced a new agentic AI tool that really is kind of a comprehensive creative manager for brands on Amazon. Jay, what did you learn at Spotify that you're applying to your work at Amazon?
So I learned about the value of thinking big and running fast. Spotify is one of these stories of a business that ought not exist. It had all the disadvantages you would think, from the outside, looking in, of a small company that's trying to build a business in music, competing with others that are able to give it away for free as part of some other strategy. And so one of the secrets to the success is not just like having a great idea, but being able to outrun the competition and be able to do so strategically. And so I try to bring that into my day-to-day here at Amazon.
One thing that I was thinking about was sort of this classic editorial advertising divide, that's discussed in the media a lot. And I was thinking about it in the context of Rufus, which is Amazon's AI assistant. I use Rufus quite a bit, actually. Just to, even after I buy something, it's like I'll go in and I'll say, how do I install this? Like, that kind of thing. Like I did it with a kickstand on my bike this weekend. And it struck me that would be a great place to put ads. And I don't know if that's happening yet, but I'm wondering like how you think about that in terms of Amazon's e-commerce chatbot and whether that could be a place to present commercial messages in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And as you can imagine, like we're thinking through just the evolution of the Amazon shopping experience, all up. One of the beliefs is that ads work best when they're natively integrated into the experience. And so whether that is sponsored listings within search or audio spots within Alexa or coupons within like Whole Foods, we want to be contextually relevant to the environment in which we serve. And so as those environments change and evolve over time, it requires us to invent alongside. And so we're constantly thinking about how monetization and the consumer experiences kind of grow up alongside one another. And the future is unknown. That's like the most exciting bit for someone like me, is that I get to help define what that future looks like.
Okay, so no answer on that one yet. Not yet. Okay.
Stay tuned.
Okay, good. As I was researching and learning more about you in preparation for this conversation, I thought back to a recent article that I read in The New Yorker. It quoted Jaron Lanier, the technologist who's known for his early work in virtual reality, and he's predicting a future where the whole notion of like pre-created content just goes away. And the AI is more of a hub that, like, for example, instead of playing a specific song that an artist created, it creates a new song just for you in the moment based on what it knows about you. And so I wondered if you could sort of apply that to your world. I mean, is that sort of the ultimate end game for advertising? Like a future where there's like no more ads, but only this like live personalized synthesis of content and commerce created by AI for an audience of one?
Yeah, I mean, that's the path. I think the more interesting question is, how soon do you think that'll become a reality? Once the technology is capable of operating at runtime, the advantages are plentiful. And I think you're already seeing glimpses of that. For example, headlines and ad copy can be generated at runtime based on what you just searched for. Yeah. And you could actually like pull in specific attributes of the query like into the creative in order to create more of a connection between the spot. I think we're a little further off in being able to do that with images, let alone videos. But the curve is very clear that as you can push decisioning as close to the edge as possible, you will open up more opportunities to deliver resonant messages. And so I think that's very much the direction of travel. And I think ads is probably one of the first best cases of that. But I think it's true of media all up. I think you look at something like the metaverse, which struggles in large part due to lack of content. It's amazing. I don't know if you've got any VR goggles.
I've got an Oculus. Yeah,
you have an Oculus, right?
Yeah.
How often do you use it?
Oh, once or twice a week.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. They've got the exercise programs. I love VR ping pong. Have you ever played VR ping pong?
Oh, yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. Well, what I was describing, my experience with it, my experience with it is like it's absolutely mind blowing. Like when you put it on, but there isn't that much like content to keep most folks coming back. I guess present case.
I'm probably not the best example for why a technology doesn't work because I'm trying everything.
Yeah, there you go.
But I get what you're saying. For most people, those headsets are sitting on the shelf gathering dust.
Yeah. Like imagine this technology being able to generate virtual worlds at like every turn. And so some of the state of the art rendering technology is already starting to be able to do that. And I think once you're able to create these worlds, these devices are going to have like a whole new life like associated with them. And I think that's going to take an increasing share of overall like entertainment time. So yeah, I'm really excited about the direction of travel. I think ads tends to be at the tip of the spear.
Oh, really?
Because there's a very clear kind of commercial use case, and the overall like creative duration tends to be a lot shorter. Like building a virtual world is kind of one end of the spectrum. Generating a headline at runtime is at the other end. But if the question is, do I see, or is it sci-fi, the technology being produced closer and closer to the point of consumption, I most certainly think that that's the case, and I think it will result in just an evolution of the overall art form.
In the meantime, obviously there's many efficiencies to be had for people who create content, whether commercial or editorial or whatever. But I'm wondering, from a click-through rate perspective, from an engagement perspective, do you see evidence that it's actually as effective, less effective, more effective than something human created? What are you seeing in that realm?
Yeah, no, we're seeing that it's hugely effective. This is what we're seeing. It's quite intuitive, but it's worth stating out loud. But as the cost to produce content goes down, the total quantity of creative goes way, way up. And when you have a lot more content to test and experiment with, you're going to find pockets of performance that you never even knew existed. And so adopters of a video generator, which is a tool that went generally available in June of this year, so it's now like a mainstream product. It's directly integrated inside of Amazon Ads, ad console. Adopters of that tool see a 12% increase in product sales just 1 month after having adopted. And so it's like really mind-blowing how well these things are working. And so now imagine, like in the DSLR case, how much improved the creative experience becomes when we're able to tailor content to individuals. And part of being able to tailor content to specific shoppers is as a result of being able to generate many more concepts, many more variants, and then being able to test, experiment, and target in kind.
Does that then mean that there's just going to be a flood of ads around? Like, if you can, basically create infinite ads, does that mean that I'm going to have to put up with infinite ads?
Well, it's actually the opposite. It's because ad inventory is scarce. It's finite. There's only so much of it. There's only so many ads that you're going to experience across your day, that having them be tailored is net accretive to whatever experience that you're having in the moment.
They're higher quality, so you can have fewer quantity.
Yes, that's a great way of putting it. For the shopper, it's much more relevant, and for the advertiser, it's way more efficient.
Something you said earlier really resonated with me. I've heard this from a few guests on the podcast recently in different ways, and that is that the people who are the most expert already actually get the most out of the tools because they know the right prompts to use. They know when to call BS on what they get back. It's just a much more sophisticated interaction with the tool, as opposed to just handing it over to the tool and hoping and praying that it's going to be good. So for me, I think there's just a lot of lessons that can be learned just in day-to-day usage of it. And I'm sure that's what these brands are learning as they use these Amazon tools to create ads.
100%. And I think that's true like across the board. 10x engineers are becoming 100x engineers by virtue of all of these new vibe coding tools. I think more so than non-engineers becoming engineers. And I think we're seeing the same thing on the creative side of the house. Like the best creatives are able to get the most out of the tools, even though camera technology has become so accessible, it's packed in every pocket and every phone. The best photographs are still being produced by professionals. The best art is still being produced by artists. And that hasn't changed in hundreds of years, and I don't think it's going to change going forward. I actually have a daughter who's starting art and design at university, and I spent a lot of time thinking about like what the future holds. And my advice to her is to run towards the new technology, figure out how to embrace it as a new canvas, as a new paintbrush. And I think there's going to be all new art forms that come out as a result. And I think that's been true up until this point, and I don't see any reason why it'll change going forward.
Jay, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you very much for being on.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's been a pleasure.
Jay Richman is Vice President of Product and Technology at Amazon. Curt Milton edited this episode. I'm GeekWire co-founder Todd Bishop. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with a new episode of the GeekWire podcast.